Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Live Your True Story. This is your host, Miok Icaro. I'm a plant medicine apprentice and guide, and also co-founder of Ineneta with my teachers, Maestra Maricela and Maestro Francisco. And I'm also a writer. I have a Substack, meok.substack.com. That's MEEOK. And I also have a website, HoldingCompassionate.space, where I offer information about my consultations and support that I provide for people working in the plant medicine world, and also people writing books, and also people who are interested in using writing in a ceremonial way. You don't have to be someone who's interested in publishing, but wants to use writing as a sacred medium. And there's also information about our upcoming retreats on my website as well. We are offering retreats in June and also August, both master plant dietas and guided retreats for people who want to go deeper with the medicine but aren't ready for a master plant dieta, and also people coming to the medicine for the first time. As somebody who works with Indigenous communities, I was really excited to bring Tyson Yunkaporta on, who is an incredible Aboriginal scholar living in Sydney. I was really happy to get a slice of his time. And so we had this short conversation that I'm posting here for paid subscribers. I really wanted to speak to him on more of an Indigenous level about decolonization and adoption and medicine. He is someone who struggles with mental illness, which he's very public about. And he's also adopted, and he's also a writer. So there was a lot of overlap for us to chat about. He was extremely busy on this day, so just really grateful that he took the time. He talks about adoption in a really fascinating way. Being in the adoption world, most of us are talking about essentially settler adoption. It's people coming from quote unquote great nations and adopting children from poorer countries, often as the result of war. And often those wars are the ones they caused. But he also talks about the Indigenous adoption that happens within the Indigenous communities as a sort of kinship technology that's really fascinating, and speaks to his appraisal that adoption is good. He was adopted by an Indigenous family, and the Indigenous family that he had come from, he's very glad he wasn't raised by. And these things can be really complicated. When I went back to Korea and met my birth mother, I'm I don't think anyone should have been placed in the family that I was placed in, but also I was really glad I was not raised by the person who I met. So he talks about the distinction between Indigenous adoption and this sort of settler colonial adoption. And as a theme, we sort of talk about bad faith reading and how that's sort of a disease. There's always going to be people who cherry pick. There's always going to be people who bring their bias to your work. And this sort of lack of neutrality, this lack of perspectival integrity is really rampant and has really impacted him. And in a similar way that it's like we can't get good leaders because no sane, decent human being would ever go through all of that. It seems to be similar in the public space. It's really hard to be public and out there, even if you're not on huge platforms and things. The energy that you get just by being out there, in Theodore Roosevelt's arena is kind of an icky place. So we do chat a little bit about that. I'm personally looking forward to taking some time off myself after the retreats are over, and just being a person again. Toward the end, he introduces a concept that I had never heard of, which I really loved when I asked him about writing. If you haven't read his book Sand Talk, I recommend it. I think that he corrected some things later on, and I haven't read his later works, But Sand Talk was extremely interesting and also really funny. Like I was very, very entertained. And it's a short piece, so I encourage you to pick it up if you want to check that out. But we both sort of talked about how we're leaving the word decolonization behind. Neither of us really use that word, or it doesn't really resonate with us anymore for different reasons. And for him, he talks about this concept of creolization that is really, really interesting and sort of like the opposite approach of what I'm thinking. And together, I think they sort of create a whole picture of how to proceed in a colonized space, depending on what part of the space you occupy. And then finally, we end up talking about sacred sites in Asia and just what those models offer that monotheism can't. So I hope that you enjoyed this conversation. It was a real treat to meet him and have him on, even though it was a little bit of a crazy day at his house that day. And I hope that you find him as illuminating as I do. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting the podcast. And hopefully I will catch you soon.
Hi, Miak.